You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the big show. As always, the Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you, but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as the rest of your family. And we've been here for 60 years and 2,500 episodes. And we've had just the most amazing minds on the show. Refer them to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on TikTok, and all those crazy places on the internet. Today we have a returning guest who's been on the show about, I think, 6+ times. J.A. Jance joins us again. She's the author of her latest book to come out September 30th, 2025, The Girl from Devil's Lake, a Brady novel of suspense, part of the Joanna Brady Mystery series. Jay has been on the show with us multiple times. She is the New York Times best-selling author of over 46 contemporary mysteries in 4 different series. I always use her Amazon bio, and I think it needs to be updated because I think she has 60+ books. She's a voracious reader. J.A. Jance knew she wanted to be a writer from the moment she read her first Wizard of Oz book in 2nd grade, always drawn to mysteries from Nancy Drew, right through John D. McDonald's Travis McGee series, and it was only natural that she tried her hand at writing her first book, and it would be a mystery as well. And she's been a prolific author all of her life. Welcome to the show, Miss Jance. How are you?
I'm fine. Actually, I haven't been a prolific author all my life. I've only been a prolific author for half my life.
There you go. And
I turned 80 last October, and the first Beaumont book was written in 1982. So only half my life has been devoted to writing.
There you go, and that half has been prolific. And you know, we may tell it again on the story if you want, but you know, your story of going through your life and being discouraged to write, even though that was kind of your thing, I'll never forget. It's always a great story, and I love sharing it with people. You know, and so great example that even starting late, you know, you have the potential to do amazing things.
Actually, I don't think starting at 40 was starting all that late, because I had a lot of experience. My first husband was not exactly husband material. He died of chronic alcoholism at age 42.
Mm-hmm.
He liked to hang out in dive bars, and I remember one night hiding behind a tree in Hammond, Indiana, because a gunfight had broken out in his favorite pub. So the guy, for a mystery writer, the guy was a gold mine of material.
There you go. And then the fun thing about you is if anyone ever pisses you off, they end up getting, I think, often when you're novels. So.
The creative writing professor at the University of Arizona wouldn't allow me in his course because I was a girl. And in my first hardback, Hour of the Hunter, which was also the first Walker family book, the main character is a lady who's a teacher on an Indian reservation, but she always wanted to be a writer. Her husband was allowed in the creative writing program that was closed to her. He's dead at the beginning of the book. And the crazed killer in that book turns out to be a former professor of creative writing from the University of Arizona. So yes, do not piss mystery writers off, because we do believe in.
There you go. Your stories always echo with me, Jay. I love telling people about you and having you on the show.
This is the Joanna Brady book. When I read, I loved the Travis McGee books, but he never seemed to get any older. He never seemed to get any smarter. he always fell for the next good-looking broad who came down the road, and she was always trouble. And so when I started writing, I decided that my characters would age over the years. That's why Bo, who started out in his 40s in the books as a cop at Seattle PD, is now my age and retired from being a cop. But I did the same thing with the Joanna Brady books. When I started writing those, I did so as an antidote for the Beaumont books, because the Beaumont books are written in the first person. They're written from a male point of view, and they were written in the Seattle area where I was relatively new. So when it was time to write that next series, I decided to press the easy button. I decided to use third person instead of first. I decided to have a female protagonist, and I set them in Southern Arizona, where I grew up. In the first scene of the first Joanna Brady book, Desert Heat, Joanna is there with her mother, Eleanor, her 9-year-old daughter, Jennifer, and they're waiting for her husband to come home so they can go out and have dinner to celebrate their 10th wedding anniversary. She has just had a teeny tiny bit of sex ed at Greenway School, and she has now counted on her fingers, and she figured out that there aren't enough months between their anniversary and her birthday. And so she throws a hand grenade into the conversation by asking her mother if she was a preemie. Well, of course, she wasn't a preemie. She was right on time. The wedding was late. And it's something that Joanna's mother has always been pitched a fit about for the past however many years.
Oh, wow.
When we meet Jennifer Ann Brady in The Girl from Devil's Lake, she has grown up. She's a college graduate. Partway through an earlier book, Missing and Endangered, she decides to follow in her mother's footsteps and changes her major to criminal justice. When this book starts, she's about to graduate from the same police academy that Joanna attended after she was elected sheriff. And Joanna is on her way to be the speaker at Jenny's graduation party or graduation ceremony from the police academy. So we've watched this child grow up. And I think that's one of the things people enjoy about my books. The characters don't just stay in one place, in one dimension. They have lives, they have kids, they have friends that they lose along the way. And I think that keeps my readers engaged, and it keeps me engaged as well.
There you go. And it's important to keep you engaged. I mean, so how many books have you written? I think it's 60 plus now, if I recall from our last meeting.
I just finished the next Allie book, which is called Smoke and Mirrors. And I've started on the next. I had the prologue and one chapter of the next Beaumont book. And I think the next Beaumont book will actually be number 70.
Wow.
So I've been writing at a rate of 1.6 books a year for 40 years, but who's counting?
Good for you. Yeah, well, I mean, that is something. And this is why I always brag to people when I say, we had Mrs. Chance on the show again. And it's always fun to have you. We've had different after show and before show discussions about some of the stories of your life and some of the impacts. And
this book, The Girl from Devil's Lake, is unusual. When longtime readers, when they open the first page, they'll be astonished to find themselves not in Joanna Brady's Southern Arizona, but in a town called Fertile, Minnesota in 1956. And on that day in 1956, an 11-year-old boy named Stephen Roper, who loathes his step-grandmother, murders her by stringing fishing string across the top step of their porch and then luring her to come outside because a raccoon is after her cat.
I think I should write this down.
So he commits murder and gets away with it at age 11.
I'm writing this down now.
And that sets the stage for him to become a serial murderer. So in the background of the book, as we watch Joanna Brady moving forward with the investigation of a young child whose body has been found floating in floodwaters under the San Pedro River Bridge in St. David, while she's moving forward with that, we're watching Stephen Roper grow up and launch off on his career. And what he does is he poses as someone with a normal life. He's a teacher during the school year, and then he uses his summer vacations to go traveling across the country, murdering people willy-nilly. And those stranger on stranger homicides are the hardest ones to solve because there's no connection between the perpetrator and the victim. And so he has left a trail of bodies from coast to coast. And this huge case comes to a head in Joanna Brady's small jurisdiction. And it's so I saw a play once called Two Trains Running. And in a way, this book is also two trains running on side-by-side tracks that eventually come together.
There you go. Amazing book writing that you do. How do you know what number this is in the series of the Joanne Bohm or Joanne?
I believe it's number 20.
Number 20, the Joanna Brady.
Don't make me swear by that, but I think it's number 20.
Can we get a Bible? We want to get a swear by on this one. No, I mean, just amazing. And how many, for readers out there that are just discovering you, how many I'm not sure what they're called, but how many threads of different series do you have so people know what to look for?
I don't know. Yesterday I settled a bet for a husband and wife in Tempe, Arizona, because he said that I had taken down a murderer in Munns Park, Arizona, in one of my books, but did I know which one it was?
They're starting to test you.
I had no
you have
idea.
70 books,
I
got one. I can't even remember what's in it.
But I managed to figure it out, and the answer to his question, which meant he won a bet with his wife, was Hand of Evil, Allie Reynolds, number 3.
Oh, there you go.
But here's the thing that's tough. Right now, we're talking about The Girl from Devil's Lake, which I finished writing a year and a half ago. Since then, I've been out talking about the next Beaumont, Den of Iniquity, the next Allie Reynolds, Overkill, while writing the next Allie Brady, which is Allie Reynolds, which is done. So I'm juggling all of these different books in my head. And sometimes when people ask me questions about the current book, they probably think I don't even know anything about it. Are you sure you wrote that book? Well, yes, I think I did, back in the deep, dark past.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot going on. You have these different character threads. I saw you last on Den of Iniquity. You were on the show on September 11th, 2024. So wow, it's actually today or tomorrow the 11th. I've got my surgery Friday. Yeah, tomorrow's the 11th. So yeah, we saw you just sort of a year ago for Den of Iniquity. And then I think we've had you on the show 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. So this is your 6th appearance. Congratulations. And it's always fun to talk to you and the stories that you tell and you weave, and people just love your books. What do you think resonates with your audience on your book writing?
I think what resonates is my characters aren't superheroes. They're ordinary people going through their lives. When early on in my writing career, I read a book by a guy who's a big name author now. Mm-hmm. But in that book, he had a dog. Mm-hmm. The dog was in the house next door. And when the family left, there was no arrangement made for caring for the dog. Mm. And the house was burned down and the dog died. So the dog was only in the book to be a victim of the fire. And I haven't read one of that guy's books since. But that affected me because I thought, if you're going to have animals in a book, if you're going to have kids in a book, somebody has to look after them.
Yeah.
So Joanna has the job of sheriff, which calls her out to incidents at all hours of the day and night. Mm-hmm. She had a young daughter, and in book number 3, this guy shows up and he's still hanging around in book number 4. Mm-hmm. And I could see that a romance was blossoming. Mm-hmm. And my then editor said, "Oh, don't let them get married. If they get married, it'll just be boring." Well, I'm sorry. I've been married with my husband, my second husband, the good one. He says the first
good one.
That it's made his life perfect. But
he set the bar low. Is that
very low?
Okay, there you go.
We've been married for going on 40 years, and
congratulations.
Being married isn't boring. It's an experience in listening. It's an experience in negotiating. There's a lot of things going on. So Joanna and Butch Dixon got married. I happen to operate on the assumption that what happens in my character's bedrooms goes on behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. So somebody wrote to me and said, "Well, do Butch and Joanna have a platonic marriage?" And I said, "Well, they have 2 kids. I don't think so."
Yeah.
But I think the fact that my characters are ordinary people who have experiences that we all experience. In one book, Joanna Brady's father, who was clearly beginning to develop Alzheimer's, mm-hmm. took himself out the door of his assisted living facility and mm-hmm. stepped in front of a moving vehicle. Mm-hmm. And of course that was shocking. But it's the type of thing that people deal with.
Yeah.
And in the book that I just, the Ali Reynolds book that I just finished writing, Smoke and Mirrors, that starts with her widowed mother marrying for the second time. Mm. So I think that's part of what resonates with my characters is the mysteries are there and the mysteries are front and center. But I think that people really connect with what's going on with the characters' lives in the background.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories that I always tell people whenever I reference you as a prolific author, in my mind, for half your life, the last half of your life, as you put it, is the story of how one of your audience people came to you and said, "Did you know that one of your characters is an alcoholic?" And the light went on. I always thought that story was great.
Well, the thing that was interesting to me, she did. It was the 4th Beaumont book. When I started writing the Beau books, those are in first person. Mm-hmm. He couldn't work all the time. And I wasn't allowed in the creative writing program, mm-hmm. but I was smart enough to figure out that you should write what you know. Mm-hmm. And having spent 18 years of my life with a guy who died of booze at age 42, I knew a lot about drinking. So yeah. That's what I had Beau do in his spare time. And I didn't think about it in terms of anything but just a piece of stage business in the background of the story. But then in a signing for the 4th book is when the lady came up and asked me, she said, Bo drinks every day. He has a drink of choice. It's starting to interfere with his work. Does J.P. Beaumont have a problem? And I said, these are books. But more people asked me that same question. And I finally figured out that I had created Beau's background based on my history with a problem drinker.
Yeah.
And my readers recognized it before I recognized it. And that's sort of the story.
That's why I love that story, is because it's so amazing.
But I've also had people tell me that reading about Beau's struggle has helped them deal with their own addiction struggles. That's something I never anticipated. In fact, I was doing a signing someplace, and this really scary looking guy, I was in a grocery store in Seattle on 85th Street.
Mm-hmm.
And this scary looking guy, he was wearing a t-shirt with his packet of cigarettes rolled up in the sleeve and tattoos hither and yon. And he came up to the table and he said, I've been a bartender all my life. Then the doctor told me if I didn't quit drinking, I was going to die. And so I quit drinking. But that meant I had to stop being a bartender. Oh. And that meant I'd lost all my friends. So he said, I've opened this non-alcoholic bar just up the street. Would you like to do a book signing there? And I think it was the scariest place I've ever seen. I've seen some scary places. But I went, and the bookstore who brought the books to the event, they were kind of concerned too. But it really is interesting how my fiction interacts with people in real life.
Yeah. Having you on the show multiple times and other great authors, I've learned stories are the owner's manuals to life. They're the fabric of our lives. And it's interesting how authors like yourself have used those real stories of your life experience, and how much you guys utilize that maps into weave the great stories that you guys put out that endears to people, and then how much that impacts them. It's just always astounding. I mean, you're writing fiction, and yet these stories help people.
That's why I think it's not starting to write at age 40 was a lot smarter than starting to write at age 23, because I had learned a lot more along the way in the intervening years. And it's helpful if you know something and have something to say.
There you go. We certainly have a lot more to say in our older age than we do when we're younger. When I was younger, I was like, I don't know, whatever. But now, you can't get me to shut up half the time. That's why I own a podcast. So now you've got, that's one of the challenges of being a prolific author like yourself. You've got, we have people that come on from the Tom Clancy series, and they've got their series, they got Tom Clancy, and you've got so many books that you're spinning, and like you say, it takes so long for the publishers these days to edit and, bring stuff to market. And of course, there's a timing to it, of course. But, you've written 2 or 3 books in the can by the time you're doing a promotion for the other one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, crossing into real life in my books is sometimes can be an incredible blessing. In one of my books, years ago, we were having Thanksgiving dinner, and my 40-something-year-old son looked at me and said, Mom, Beau is getting pretty long of tooth. Have you ever thought of writing a J.P. Beaumont prequel? And I said, no, I've never thought of writing a J.P. Beaumont prequel. But then the following August came along. It was time to write the next Beaumont book. And writing a prequel was the only idea I had. So I was sitting in the family room with my computer open and the screen absolutely blank. And I started thinking about Bo. If you had kids and brothers and sisters and grandkids and great-grandkids, that's a lot of people's birthdays to remember.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you have all of these characters and you're supposed to remember how old they are, then that's a whole other issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I cheated with Bo by giving him my birthday.
Mm.
So I was sitting there looking at my computer screen, and I was thinking about how old I was and how old Beaumont was. And then I remembered a guy from Bisbee High School. His name was Doug Davis.
Mm-hmm.
He was a year ahead of me in school. He was smart. He was athletic. He was handsome. He was the whole package.
Mm.
He was at Bisbee High. He was the valedictorian of the class of 1961.
Mm-hmm.
He left Bisbee High School. He went to West Point.
Mm-hmm.
From West Point to Ranger School. He went from Ranger School to Vietnam, where he died weeks before his 23rd birthday.
Mm.
Over time, through my books, I became acquainted with and ultimately friends with the flight attendant who was engaged to Doug at the time he died.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting there looking at my computer screen, and I thought, well, what would happen if I had Bo and Doug Davis meet up and interact in Vietnam?
Hmm.
So I called Bonnie, his then fiance. I called Bonnie and I said, what would you think if I intertwined Doug's real life with Bo's fictional one in the next book?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, well, let me think about it. She called me back a couple of days later and she said, I think my Douglas would be safe in your hands. And so I launched off on writing this book. Bo is in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He is having on his way to the hospital for bilateral knee replacement surgery. And he's thinking, this is really, what if I die? I don't want to leave Mel by herself. And but he goes through the surgery and he wakes up in his room. And there's this guy in fatigues, Vietnam era fatigues, looking out the window at the Space Needle, except the hospital window is on the wrong side of the hospital for him to be able to see the Space Needle.
Oh.
Because he is having these painkiller fueled dreams. When my husband had his surgery, his dreams were really wild.
Wow.
So this guy walks across the room to Bo's bed, and he looks down at Bo and he says, you got old. And Bo looks up into Doug Davis's youthful face and says, and you didn't.
Hmm.
This week, through that book, Bonnie Abney, after 70 years of thinking someone else's mother had introduced her to Doug in Florida, she finally discovered the real guy whose mother introduced her because of my book, Second Watch.
Really? Holy crap.
Holy crap. When I got his email and he said, Doug and I were roommates our sophomore year at West Point, and we took a road trip to Florida, to Homestead. And as soon as I read those words, I had heard that story from Bonnie's point of view, but she thought the woman who introduced her was a guy named O'Connor.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy whose mother introduced her was actually named Connor.
Oh, wow. Holy crap.
So that's the magic of intersecting real lives with fiction.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, what's that? Some things are stranger than fiction, or some things are in real life. I don't know. I can't pull the reference. So, Miss Chance, what do you see anything coming from? You just launched this series. Do you want to give us the titles? I think you mentioned a couple of them earlier of pending future book sales.
Well,
we can get on to.
The most recent Alley book is Overkill.
Mm-hmm.
That starts with a woman, this cleaning lady is working in the household and cleaning up after a big holiday party.
Mm-hmm.
The husband, his car is in the garage, but he's nowhere to be seen. So she figures he must have gone off on a trip using an Uber. Mm. And then the woman of the household shows up at the top of the stairway, drenched in blood and holding a bloody knife. Mm. She happens, so and there's a cat upstairs with her. The cat is also bloody. And someone asked me, well, if an animal is in the book, somebody has to feed the animal. The animal should have a name. And so I named the cat Pearl. Mm. And somebody wrote and said, why did you name the cat Pearl? And I said, well, she's white. But it happens that the woman at the top of the stairs holding the knife is Allie Reynolds' current husband's former wife. Uh-oh. And the guy who's dead is Allie Reynolds' current husband's former partner and best friend. And when his wife and the best friend got together, that was the end of the partnership and the end of the friendship. Mm. So when Clarice, the ex-wife, calls the High Noon Enterprises looking for help, and Allie gets on the phone, B doesn't want to have anything to do with her. The husband doesn't want to have anything to do with her, but Allie, who is incapable of minding her own business, has to become involved. So that's Overkill.
There you go. There you go. Well, Miss Chance, it's always an honor to have you on, and I always love telling stories. And when we talk to authors about the business of authorship, you just set a great example for authors and a high bar for them to follow. So we always appreciate having you on the show.
Well, the ancient sacred charge of the storyteller, mm-hmm. to beguile the time. And there is no higher praise than to find out my books have kept someone company while they've been in a hospital waiting room.
I should probably take one in this Friday. I'm going in on 2 days on Friday for a hernia surgery. So I should probably take your books in because them are going to be waiting a long time.
Well, yes, take a couple books in because believe me, the hospital room's television set will not function.
I'm finding out how fun the medical field is this week. So, Ms. Chance, give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs and get to know more about you?
There's an official J.A. Jance author website, and they can reach me that way. My email address is posted there. Mm-hmm. I write a weekly blog that can also be found at the website. And the blogs are sort of my autobiography in weekly installments because they're like letters to my readers, letting them know what's going on mm-hmm. in this writer's life mm-hmm. on a weekly basis.
There you go. And so follow Miss Chance, follow her stories, read all her books. Just go ahead, just take your Amex card and go buy every single one on Amazon and follow the series. And And it's always wonderful to have you on, Miss Jantz. I always appreciate it.
You should give them a warning. People have told me that reading my books is like eating Fritos because you can't read just one.
There you go. I love how all your audience writes you and being like, why did you name the person that? They sound like they really get into the stories and they flesh them out and incorporate them in their own lives. And that's just amazing storytelling.
Well, I answer every email that comes in because readers are my bread and butter.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Well, Miss Jantz, thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, and good luck with your surgery.
Thank you. I'm gonna need it. So there you go. So folks, order the book wherever fine books are sold. Buy all of Mrs. Jantz's books. She's been on the show 6 different times. You can search for the other episodes in the show if you like. The Girl from Devil's Lake, a Brady novel of suspense, part of the Joanna Brady mystery series, out September 30th, 2025. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.